Welcome back to the Meebits Podcast. This is episode 15 with Blondie. Blondie, welcome to the Meebits Podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about you? It's been a bit since we've had a chance to directly chat, so this is going to be fun. I'm excited.
I believe I was in Miami back at the beginning of the year. I think life's very different for both of us. Not eight months.
It is. I think we saw each other in New York, but yeah, it's been brief. I think the most time we spent together was back at the beginning of the year for
Yeah,
Miami. And yes, very different.
at a birthday dinner, but maybe we'll talk about that later. I want to start with getting the Meebits community and our audience to know who Blonde is. She obviously has a great sense of style, judging from the punk pendant and the Snouts logo T-shirt that you're rocking. But besides that, who's Blondie?
Uh, Blondie is a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats for myself. I'm at base, I like to say I'm a mom first, foremost, dog mom and people mom. But collector of things that are pretty. That's kind of how this all started as well. But, try to be a happy person, try to, because our community and as a whole, we can be very, I think we just talked about this a little bit too, before we started recording, but all over the place with emotions. And so try to be a positive person and an inclusive person as much as I can be, try to be, a builder in the space and then also encourage others to build and to create, to be creative.
You have had quite the collecting journey, at least from my perspective, from the outside. Now, I had the honor to get to know you, and I understand you a little bit better. But for those of in the audience who might not know Blondie, besides, you have a beautiful mask of Lucy as your PFP. The first time I came across your profile, you were rocking an awesome rainbow puking doodle, which I almost feel like that's your identity. A lot of artists have made pieces that integrate that to honor you. When did you come into NFT art? Were you an art collector before? How did that all come about?
I came in a little bit ago. We don't talk about my early stages that much just because it's luckily I didn't hit the peak of the PFP NFT. I call it crisis now. When everything was the mania, I came in on like the heels of it, so things had kind of started to come back down a little bit, which good, bad, or indifferent. But was a sneakerhead to start. I do collect art, but my home in Texas, I have a lot of windows, and so I didn't have a lot of place to show off physical art. And so I was collecting sneakers and other things like that, bear bricks, which Louis Vuitton trunks are my big things that I was collecting, and came across actually my first NFT I ever minted was a moonbird. So there was a raffle in one of my sneaker communities for minting a moonbird, which I had no idea what that meant. But you just like, if you're in any of these things, you just register for everything and you hope you hit something. And I won the opportunity to mint a moonbird, and everybody in my community was like, oh my gosh, this is huge. Like if I had won this, I would quit my job. And I was like, what is happening? Like, I don't get this at all. And my late husband was very much into crypto, but not like I'm going to spend crypto type person. Like, let's buy it and watch number go up type person. He got in early. And so I had gone to him and said, hey, there's this thing. He's like, oh, well, I'm a gambler. Let's see what happens with this. And so, the first couple of days of that were fantastic. It was a little bit watching that number go up, and then I watched it go all the way back down. But Moonbirds was actually my first entry point. But through all of that, I also discovered another couple of collections through that community of collecting and sneakerheads, and got some of my still closest friends I met through those communities, which was Invisible Friends. We briefly talked about that before as well, and was heavily involved with that community for a really long time. As things would progress, I was very much interested in digital art outside the PFP collection, but my late husband wasn't so supportive of spending crypto on JPEGs. So he would pass away later, obviously, after the Moonbird experience, not because of Moonbirds, but we should probably cut that.
I kind of want to leave it. It's amazing.
Can't wait to tell Raul that one. Okay. Okay. I digress. Moonbirds, Invisible Friends. My husband passed away. And obviously, there's a lot of chaos that goes along with, the death of a spouse, especially unexpectedly. And so, for a while, I was just trying to figure out where I was going to go and what I was going to do. And it ended up being this blessing that I had known just enough about NFTs and crypto that he shared with me how to access his crypto. And so when he passed away, I was able to use that crypto that he had been hoarding and keeping safe at the time for me, which was probably good too, because I probably would have had a lot more invisible friends and moonbirds and other things that might not have turned out so well. But to build something that belonged to me and kind of give me a new direction in life, which I really felt like I needed. And so I started collecting digital art. And I think my first few purchases were actually kind of in a mode of, I don't want to say vindictive, but let's see, what's the right word? I'm not sure. I'll find one eventually. But at the time, Kevin Rose was selling a lot of his his digital art collection. And so I bought his squiggle, and I felt like empowered by that. I don't know why, just because I felt like I had such a great run with Moonbirds and had all this faith, and everything at the time had gone to shit. But so I bought that, and then I had bid against some people, and I think it was Sotheby's that was running the auction for a DK Motion 101. And so I was starting to get DMs from these people that were like, who is this girl, first of all, because we don't have a lot of those in our space. Who's this woman, this girl that's come into our community and who's now trying to compete for these fairly well-known art pieces? And she seems like she's making these right moves. Who is this? So I was getting, like Benny, our mutual friend, was one of the first to reach out and be like, hey, who are you? Where did you come from? And soon after, we would become very close friends. So I think it all kind of worked out. I had gone through a really cruddy time, obviously, and then was able to start using crypto to buy things and kind of change where my path was headed and to dive into a hobby that I loved and was excited about, and then was buying the right things that caught the eyes of people that were pretty big players in our space as far as community and access to things. And they kind of took me under their wing, and I would soon start building white walls with my previous co-founders to give us a way to display. So like even behind me right now, I have televisions everywhere in my home because it's Texas. We watch a lot of football. And as I stated earlier, my late husband was a gambler. So we had televisions everywhere. So like no matter where you were, you could see sports, right? And so I was like, well, it'd be great if I could just, most of the time these televisions are off unless there's sports on. It'd be great to be able to display my digital art. So that's how we started. That's how I really kind of deep dove down into, like, I don't have another place to hang another hardware display or whatever, and I don't want a little thing sitting all over my house, but this would be great. So started building white walls, and that's where we're at now. Just got deeper dives. Yeah.
What an amazing just kind of story in the sense that it's all connected. Um,
Yeah. And like also like some really shitty things, it's the only way to describe, led to really building into something that I could make for myself. And all of these the amazing people that I've met, the art that I've been able to collect, and even the timing where things had kind of settled down a little bit, where, I mean, I've spent a fortune on digital art. I think you and I both have over the time. But it was like a really great time because things had kind of started to settle back down at that point. And I was able to get a lot of really great pieces. I think that, I mean, even now, a lot of the stuff that I have is not really even trading anymore. Definitely not at some of the prices that I got it at. So everything in life seemed like it kind of came around. And again, the opportunities of just the people that reached out, which says a lot about these people and my friends. And these are all my closest friends. And it's like a whole, like you say, even at the beginning of this year, I was definitely there. Now I'm like in a totally different, that's how I met my boyfriend, was through this space, actually. So it's just been kind of a crazy ride.
I mean, so much to ask you, and I hope I can get everything down right. So let's go back to, obviously you came in through PFPs, but ended up falling in love with digital art. I think PFPs and this types of collections sometimes get a bad rap, and
Oh, for
they
sure.
don't get acknowledged for being such a great funnel. I came in through PFPs as well. I mean, my PFP was punks, and I was very lucky for my timing. But I came in through that, not because of the art at the time, but it helped me just understand what was going on and really dive into the space. It sounds like you did the same. Almost, were pushed by life into diving deeper. First time I hear the story about NFTs being kind of a true way to pass wealth on after people transcend to their next level of existence. And for you though, like if you were to go back and knowing what you know today about the space, obviously, you mentioned Moonbirds and Invisible Friends. I'm not talking about this type of stuff you would have bought, but knowing now about the space, the kind of people that are here, especially if you really dig deeper and like make those good connections and friendships, what would say to somebody who's at that point early on in their journey into collecting digital art or PFPs, and especially as somebody who's like a mom, like you said, a dog mom, a human mom, what would be your word of advice for people that are starting to just look into this?
So I think one of the things that, and the reason again, I was very shocked by this, but we live in our lives as parents, and we do our in real life jobs and all these different things. But it gave me a sense of community that I wouldn't have had around me in my physical area, right? Wherever you may live, this is an access to different people in different walks of life. And it was a sense of community that you could get on a spaces and chat for hours about nonsense. You could have contact in some cases with the artist. You're talking to all different ages. You're meeting people and getting exposure to things that I had never been exposed to. And some people, I think, depending on what your life journey has been, you may travel or you may have worked in an experience where you meet people internationally. That was not anything that I'd really been exposed to. And so it was really fun to be able to meet people all over the world and form these great friendships with. And I think that that's one of the big things. So there's like all these things that come along with PFP collections, for example, like punks, right? It can be in my punk. So this, as well as my Puka Lisa, or I would say, are kind of my digital identity. I really view those as being my identity, most of all. But you can get that from the PFP side of things. But also it's like a club, and it doesn't have to be an expensive PFP collection. It can be very inexpensive, but you find your group. I mean, there's been some of the great families I've met that I don't necessarily participate as actively anymore because you can't do it all. But I know that they also still support me, and I still own some of those. But when you find the communities that mean something to you and that take you in and support you in all different things, and they support you in your real life things. Like some things I do with people, like we go to concerts together, or you can participate in virtual events, or man, I'm really having a rough day, and you can go into that community and people will wrap you up and just make you feel better or support you. I think those are the things beyond what a PFP actually looks like, that you can gather from this. But it does get a bad rap, and people do have to be careful. And I think that would be the thing that I would tell people if I were to go back. And maybe I would collect differently. I don't know. I'm so grateful for where I am now that I would hate to think that if I changed anything, that I wouldn't be where I am today, right? Because they just say every little thing that, we see it in movies or whatever, but if there's one little detail change, it could just mess everything up. And I wouldn't change where I am now for the world. But I would tell people to be cautious. There is a good reason why a lot of collections and NFTs get bad names, and it's because there are bad players, and you can easily be taken advantage of, all of those things. But the good that comes out of these things, when you have been well educated and you know what to keep an eye out for, I believe far outweigh the bad stuff for sure. But yes, be very, very careful, because even I don't know anybody that's been in our community or in our space in some capacity for any amount of time that hasn't been scammed or taken advantage of or misled or all these different things, or lost money that they couldn't afford to lose. So I always am excited to introduce people to the space and talk to them about their collecting journey and where they see it and where they want to go and what are they really after. But it's always with caution. Yeah. And it's good to have people that you know, and once you find those people, to bounce things off. And I think that's the other issue. Like, I know if I had a question, I could call you one day and be like, Sergio, help me out with this. Like, I'm really struggling. And we would talk through it. And there's so many people that you can find in the space that have had similar experiences, or that can just help you, sniff out the bad players.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I mean, for me, it's the same thing, right? I think the city emptied out after COVID, and friends just left and never came back.
Yeah.
And so, well, it's nice to go visit them in Florida sometimes. It's not the same anymore. Where have a day to day network of people who care about the same things, who are excited about the same things, potentially make money together, which is such a good bonding mechanism.
And losing money really helps bring you
Losing money.
together.
We haven't had. I mean, we had Colby on the episode on the podcast, but we really haven't had a conversation with a mom who's in the space. So we'd just love to get your brief take on what do your children say, what do their parents say if they know that you're involved in this, that you play such a big role in this emergent ecosystem. Be curious to hear like what their perspective has been, or what they've shared with you at least.
Yeah, so it's so funny. People are always like, "Oh, your kids must think you're so cool." I got news for you. I don't know that my kids will ever think that. I mean, even when I was like sneaker collecting or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, I would score some tennis shoe that I think they'd be so excited about, but because I had bought it, they were like, "No, thank you. I'm good." But but it's been interesting. The things that I think they'd be excited about, they won't be, or they aren't. And then other things that I'm like, they won't care. They're like, "Why didn't you tell me about this? I don't get it. What's going on?" I think early on they enjoyed some of it, and my youngest she's was trying to do some animating back at the time, and so she kind of really got into more of that side of things, just really what I was collecting, what I was seeing, and like looking through the collections with me. I think that early days they didn't really care that much, and it may have just been a product of where they were in their lives as well, based on their age. The thing I think that really shocked me was when I started displaying my collections, my digital art collections in my home, and they would come into the house and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" I think one of the greatest ones, I had to trade a piece up, and it's a gorgeous piece of art, and my kids were like, "Wow, what is this?" "Oh, okay, let's talk about this. This is a great opportunity." And they're like, "Okay, now I need to wait. Who takes these? Who makes this art? This is amazing. How do they do it?" And then I can connect them with those people, or I can pull those stories in. And so then they're starting to ask me more about digital art on that front, which has been really exciting. Like, okay, I don't get this. Or what is this? Wow, this is gorgeous. How do they do this? Let me have you talk to this person, because I don't know how they do it. I just am really impressed by how they do it. I think when they didn't really care too much about many of my things, unless I think when Doodles hit McDonald's, then my kids were like, "Oh my gosh." Like, I think that was like the moment where they were like, "My mom owns," like, and of course they were telling kids like, "My mom owns Doodles," because they understand what that meant. But the kids were like, "Wait, your mom owns this?" I was like, no, you get it. That's confusing. But it's been kind of a nice lesson. So they share with their friends, things, and that's when, again, like they felt like, wow, this is mom's like really cool because she's got Doodles, and Doodles is at McDonald's. I guess that was like the qualifying moment for them. There's been the Red Bull thing with Doodles as well. They've really enjoyed. But again, I think for the most part, they're just happy to see me happy, and they think it's really exciting what the traveling and things that we're doing. And they've met people. I think one of the stories that I love to tell is after Marfa last year, Mendez had a layover here in Dallas, and I was like, "You're going to be staying? Like, you should just like, I'm going to go to Olive Garden tonight with my kids. You should come with us." And like, it was just this great experience of meeting somebody from a totally different part of the world with totally different experiences. He got to see Olive Garden with a very Texan family. And so those are the things too that I've really enjoyed sharing with them, and that they've really kind of latched onto. I was, again, I would have thought it would have, like, back in the Invisible Friends days or whatever it may have been. It was never those things. It was always the things that kind of surprised me. And they've really taken to the digital art, and I like changing the room up, and they'll come in and like, "Oh, what's that?" Or like, "Oh, that's really scary. Take that down," or, whatever it may be. But it has been a fun journey for them as well. And they like that I'm not like always on their case because I'm distracted doing other things. They're like, don't you have something to go do? Find something to go do. Stop bothering me about other stuff. So it's been good.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. That's super interesting, and it's funny to hear you like talk about the McDonald's Doodle collab because it is a big deal. But then people in the space were like, it didn't pump, it didn't do anything for me. It didn't make me free, internet monies. I don't really care about it. But what I'm hearing
Yeah.
right now, like it's the one thing that there's been a few, but like that really transcended, to their generation.
The fact that they're going to be on Fruit Loops boxes too, and Crocs, that was the other thing. Like, I feel like in G-Shock, I think Doodles has been the one thing that they're like really just obsessed with. But that's because it's things that they know, and then they can also talk to their friends about that. Otherwise, they're just telling their friends this stuff that they don't really understand. Maybe their mom isn't explaining it right, or maybe their mom doesn't even really understand either. But gives them something that tangible that they can see, they can show to people, and then they kind of start getting it. And it's exciting to see, them saying at some point they want to own something, or they're going to start their own collection, or whatever it may be. Those are fun things that I think that's how we say things all the time. But this is how we, as Benny would say, this is how we build. This is why we build, is what I would say. But also just onboarding people from the outside. And no, number doesn't always go up, but that's not always, don't kill me over this, but that's not always what it's about, right?
Right.
And we collect because we like collecting. Sure, it's great when they're worth more than what we paid for them. Doesn't always happen for sure, but there are things that tie, they're personal to you, and you're collecting them because you love them and you enjoy them. And it's great to see them. My daughter wears her G-Shock Doodles watch, things like that she feels connected to, and it brings us together, and it brings other people into understanding. But the parents of other kids, no, they just think I'm insane, and that's okay. That's okay. They don't, but it's very different. some people think, they're like, wow, that's just very deep and very, I don't get it. I don't, and I'm like, I totally understand. I have a few years to have sort of figured it out.
I think that we're all familiar with people who think that we are insane.
100%. Okay. Oh, and then they say NFTs, like the way they say it. I'm like, oof. I'm like, please stop saying it that way. They're like, oh, those monkey things or whatever. I'm like, that is a NFT collection. Yes, it is still on a beer somewhere that I will still see at the convenience store or whatever. But like, good, bad, or indifferent, yes, those monkeys were NFTs. Yeah, or still are. But yeah.
Still are. And we like the Yuga fam. It's just not the whole world is monkey JPEGs.
Well, correct. Oh, and it's, people, again, it wasn't that family that made it, that it's the people that own them that did something with them. And that's how we learn. I mean, is allowing, how to put rules in place, how to protect IP. Like, we see it all the time. And actually, back to Doodles, didn't even expect to be talking that much about Doodles, but and Meebits, you guys do a great job as well of protecting the brand and making sure. I think a Doodle, and maybe this is lore, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I think somebody used their Doodle as an IP on something that hadn't been approved by Doodles, and it was maybe something online gambling, or I don't remember what it was, and Doodles burned it. I believe that's correct. So I think there's like one less than the original collection because of that. So I think we see all these, you live and you learn, and I'm not saying that's necessarily the right path, but I think it's important to protect your brand.
Yeah, no. Also, remind ourselves we're sitting at the frontier of technology, art.
We're early.
It's cliche, but yes. I mean,
I know. All these things that we say.
You probably thought you were not that early when you came in, but you're very, very early. And I think that being early or not is a factor of how much you do in the space. And like, there's people that go from 0 to 100 real quick in a good way, in like a building way. And then in that case, you're early. People were tourists in 21. They didn't really learn, understand, or develop that network. And so they will probably come back at some point and feel late. And so I think it's always, there's an element of how much involvement you have versus how, time-wise early you were or not.
Well, and I think there's something to be learned from that, is we have to do it for a few reasons. We should protect the people that come in with the right intentions. And so how great will it be that we will have the opportunity to fix some of the things that went wrong, hopefully fix and reshape it to where people want to come back. And when they do, they feel welcome and they feel the joy that we obviously still find, maybe not every day, but we find that keeps us here. And I think that's important for shaping not just next week, next month, next year, but for years to come. And I think that's one of the things that Raul and I talk about all the time, is that this is just a huge culture movement. And actually, Raul and I had a great conversation with Ian, who I know that you recently spoke to as well, about the culture movement and just how important this is and how hard it sometimes is to see when we're having our bad days or when the space is just feeling really, not like it's going great, or what are we doing here? That's another one of the great things I love to say. Well, oh my gosh, what are we doing here, people? But I think that we're getting there. And if we can stick with it and we have the right people and, we try to weed out the bad actors, that we'll get there.
I totally agree with you. And that's something that we constantly think of at MeepCo. It's like, how do we make sure that we're building here for the next 20, 30 years?
Yeah.
Frankly, because I don't want to ever do anything else in my life, to be honest. Like, that's also,
I think it would be depressing.
You do
to go back. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you can be selfish in the right ways in space. Like, selfishly, I don't ever want to do any other role in my life because I love this so much. And so I'm trying to build something that will allow me, because I'm selfish, to be doing this for 20 years. No, but people think, you have
no,
to,
it's the right kind of selfishness. And if you're not selfish, but obviously if there's a balance, right?
Right.
You have to be selfish because you don't ever want to do anything different. That's why people have big careers. And most of the time you have to have some level of selfish and self-preservation, but then the people that are building and doing for the right reasons, we need them to be selfish so they stick around, because it's not always easy. And it's not always fun, but we need people to stick around that have the right intentions.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about art. And I definitely want to talk about, I think you and I share a love for something that's very unique and special, which is the Olive Garden. But we can leave that for the end of the interview. But I think that's really going to be the alpha of this episode. But before we move on to such consequential conversations, such as the unlimited salad and breadsticks from the Olive Garden, and the great wine.
Art. The great wine.
Oh, it's such good wine.
It's so good. Yeah.
Art for you now, again, from my perspective, seems to be your mission, and we'll talk about white walls here in a second too. But talk to me about the transition from community, collectibles, sneakers, doodles, kind of stuff, into somebody who's really just a champion for artists, who's very loved among the artist community, and has really become a big part. Like, I consider you a pillar of the Web3 art space.
Well, thank you for such nice words. I'll come on this podcast more often. I don't, and I will shout out to Mr. Redbeard himself for this. And people say this and it's so cliche, but I do feel, I will often say, and this sounds very, very ridiculous, like it's kind of an imposter syndrome. I'm not really quite sure why people love me as much as they do, but they do. And I'm so grateful for it. But because of that, I'm also very protective of our community, our artists. And maybe that's why, maybe it's just this whole circle, they love me, I love them. And as a result, I fight in an advocate sort of way to protect, even down to, yes, how art is displayed, but how our artists are treated, how our community members are treated, how our collectors are treated, what can we do better? But the transition, I would have said, PFPs is the only way, really, is what I thought about community, but there are other communities around, the art side of things. And I hate saying that because PFP collections are art as well, just a different style of art, obviously. But I would say my closest community in my circle are now more obviously again, I say fine art, the art side of things. We'll just say art and PFPs, but I don't mean that as a shock, because some of the PFP collections are some of the great art in our space for sure. But the community around that, I mean, the Skulls of Lucy is a great example, not obviously super obtainable anymore. And was lucky when I got in to get the skulls and to be a part of that community. But that is family to me. And we look out for each other, and some people I'm not as close to, but I know defend. We all kind of have the same vision. We would fight for Sam and Rachel, right? We would advocate for those people. There's some other artists in the space, and we take them in under the wing, and we help do all these different things and support them. And they can call you up and ask your opinion on things, or what do you think of this? And you can be like, that is utter shit. Like, what are you thinking? And they're like, I still love you, and thank you for giving me your advice. But it's been it's a fun journey and different things, and we're seeing more and more. We're doing. I mean, our schedule has become insane, right? We were just talking right before we started recording about there's an event this weekend, and then Marfa, and there was an event a couple weeks ago. There was Toledo, and then there was New York before that. And then what's going on in Charleston, and there's all of these things, which is great because is it likely you can make them all? Some people try. It's really hard, but it's so great that we're able to do that, and we're kind of like this traveling group of people that get to go and do all these things together. But then also we're able to meet these people that want to be a part and maybe can't always, but we're going to different areas, and we're seeing. I feel like we're getting there, right? Where people are kind of starting to get it. We're in institutions now where more and more prevalent. We're seeing things with. I know Sasha Stiles just had her thing, or I think it's still running at MoMA. We've seen all of these things that are making us say legitimize maybe what we're doing here as far as digital art being something that's not just your typical Windows or Apple screensaver sort of love of digital art.
I do enjoy my Apple screensavers. Remember iTunes?
They're pretty good.
Yeah, when iTunes came out, and you would just like try to get like really cool graphics on the visualizer, depending on the music.
Yeah,
that was quite an experience back then. The community is very much so one gender only. I had this conversation with Benny on a previous episode. There's a lot of really cool women in the space, but they seek the spotlight. They don't get the spotlight, maybe not the credit that they deserve. Maybe went through a whole list of names last time around. You as a woman in the space, what's your perspective on that? And before the episode, we're talking, it's not about onboarding women just to onboard women. How would you, is it do you consider a problem? Are we looking for a solution? What is your perspective on it?
I think that I don't know that I don't want to say the word problem, because I don't think that it's a problem, because the people that are here are amazing. I think it can be difficult for women to feel welcome, maybe because it is such a male dominated space in a lot of ways. And a lot of times, it's kind of a running joke, right? On X, when anytime there's events, they only show pictures of rooms full of men, maybe not always the most attractive men either. And just like but that's purposeful. They're purposely pulling, like, it's like 8 hours into some weird rave party and everybody's sweating, and it just is like a sea of men that it just looks like an ant pile, right? Like, that's not everything that there is. I'm sure I haven't been to an event like that in a really long time, and I'm sure there are still some like that. I think we could do a better job of highlighting the events that aren't like that, but maybe those of us that go to those events don't necessarily, like, when I'm there, I'm like in the moment and I'm not thinking, wow, we really need to take pictures of the women that are here, because that would be weird too. But it's just like, we need to show off that, like, this is like the Toledo event was amazing, right? I would say that was actually, granted, we have outside community there as well, but it was a pretty split crowd, right?
Yeah.
But I definitely see, again, I hate saying that, but yeah, right? Like, you wouldn't go into that room and think, wow, this is a male dominated space. You wouldn't have thought that, or any of the events that we had that weekend. But also, those are not the events that make the interesting engagement farming of ridiculous people acting ridiculous in a sea of men or boys, whatever. So I don't think it's a problem. I think those of us that are here when women try to come in or want to excuse me, check things out, I think we can do a really good job of welcoming them. And I think it would be great. And when I hear about people, and when people come to me, which my Twitter DMs are insane, so it's not always the best way to contact me. But when I, sometimes, and we've been doing a lot of this lately, where I'll go, if I'm in the area, I'll try to meet somebody for a coffee or for lunch and kind of talk to them and make them feel, and then, hey, let's start collecting, or let's start talking about this. And then it's like easing them into these other things like these events. And no, there's not a bunch of us to do that right now, but I think all of us could be welcoming about it, and maybe be more loud about these more normal events that we see on the timeline. But again, those aren't the ones that get the engagement farming and the engagement and interaction. So they're not as loud on the timeline, but it's difficult to get the word out. And it's also, technically the financial, art side, you would typically think, I would think more women, right? But crypto at base level is typically a more male thing. It's a finance thing, which tends to be also more male dominated. And so I think there's a balance there. And then getting into the technical side of, connecting your wallet and owning crypto, that gets even, I would argue, and I'm a female, so I can kind of say this, that's typically more of a male thing. Not because women aren't capable, it's just they're not really their side of things. And so I think that complicates it a little bit as well. Because even, that's one of the, most of the time I spend with new collectors trying to come into the space, or even talking to artists, it's like, oh, wait, I have to know how to mint something or code something or buy something. And, I have to connect a wallet. Oh, I can't clink links now. What is this all about? And they're like, okay, forget it. They go the other way. So I think that's the other part of it. And as we get over those big humps and hurdles of, if you wanted to, conversion of ETH to, all these different things, even just getting cryptocurrency, once we start getting through some of those humps and make it more easy for, I hate this term, normies, normal people that are outside of our space to start coming in. I think once that happens, not because women aren't capable, but because they just don't have the energy or the fight to care right now. Because there's nothing that, again, if you put pictures of raves up at 3 a.m. with a sea full of not super attractive men that are sweating after 8 hours of glow sticks, they're not like, man, I really got to get into that space.
Fair enough.
And stop dancing at events, please. That just seems like it just killed all these anytime it just is just a bad juju. Like or we could still dance, but don't record it. Stop putting out these ridiculous videos of things that are happening, because they're not putting out the good stuff, only the ridiculous stuff.
I wish people could have seen Toledo better. Said it publicly, I think is the best Web3 event I've been to. Hadn't really thought about the gender ratio, but as you were saying that, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It was very, very balanced.
And also really family friendly,
very
right?
family friendly, which is also what we need, I think.
Yeah, and not because we want necessarily more kids there, but it just brings in the mental, especially being a mom, you really struggle with, okay, what am I doing at this place? Why am I here? You just, something about your biology changes about what's going on here. And so I think, no, I don't necessarily know that we need a bunch of little kids at all of our Web3 events. That would just be obnoxious probably. And I love kids, but please don't bring them to all of our Web3 events. I just feel like it's a better curation of openness, right? People feeling like they can come in. It's more welcoming.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Benny mentioned sending Eric a video of their kids playing. And I remember watching them play, and I feel they're like kids, parents in the space, and then people who were just there for one party. And it made me happy. I'm like, oh, it feels like, 'cause to me, Web3 has become like a family, right? Like we know each other.
Sure.
We've seen each other go through, really good times, really shitty times, breakups, makeups, new relationships, losing money, making money. And so that bonds you as human beings. So being able to see like their offspring having fun there is just always, that is very, very, I don't know, very positive. You're like, yeah, I feel good about it. But I agree with you. We don't need kids at every event.
Toledo's that was the perfect thing. I mean, it was a block party, so it was great. And bringing in other community, from outside of that area, it's great for sure. But again, you think about family environments tend to be more welcoming to all people, and not just obviously people with kids, but it's less threatening than, glow stick parties or all the other variety of things that we decide to come up with to do.
So I guess
you're like kung fu lessons, I guess.
Okay, so you're not invited to our Meebits glow stick party in ApeFest. Sorry.
I didn't say I didn't want to go. I said we shouldn't just be posting videos of people raving after 8 hours sweating and still spinning glow sticks.
By the way, we're not having a glow stick party in.
Okay, good, good.
That's not. That's definitely not us either. Don't worry.
I just want to support you,
I
Sergio. Whatever,
appreciate it.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. If you were gonna have a glow stick party, we probably should have prepped for that in advance, and I would have left that part out.
it's fine. Um, all right, so let's move on to a little bit more like fun stuff. You and Raul made a very big public splash recently, kind of heart launching your relationship, which had already been in the public eye. Obviously, Raul is, I consider him like my big brother. I love him. Really, not just talented, successful guy, but just a really awesome person who's been there for me through many, many good times and bad times. And then getting to know you and seeing you guys and the relationship develop, it's been really,
Yeah,
really.
you saw us the first day we had met in
Yeah,
person.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
literally sitting right next to you for
You literally right
2
next to
hours.
me. Yeah. Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, but it's also been one of those things I was mentioning, like Web3 as a family, right? Like little inside jokes, like the Olive Garden. Obviously, Raul, before meeting you, would not step into an American establishment to consume food, right? It's only like al fresco, whatever, Spanish food and fancy rum and wine.
Culture, very heavy culture, very yes.
That's come
Yeah,
along.
he's come a long way. He doesn't always do it without kicking and screaming about it, but he's so dramatic, right? So like if you've ever watched Drinks with Raul, he and people love that where he's just making fun of basically Americans most of the time, and people love it. But he's so dramatic about it. That's not an act. Like taking him to the Olive Garden for the first time. I mean, you would have thought he had eaten a pile of dog poo when he tried something for the first time. His face was so ridiculous. And of course, my kids were videoing a lot of it. And there was some hilarious TikTok videos regarding Raul's first experience at an Olive Garden. But he's actually been back a second time. And it was actually equally as horrific as the first. Like something about like I go to the Olive Garden all the time with my kids. They love it. It's just like a thing that we've done forever. But every time we go, even the Chili's experience that we went to, it's like they know that we're coming and they purposely make it horrific. Like I've never had worse meals at any American food restaurant than I've had with him. Like we went to the Olive Garden recently when we were in New York with the kids, and it was like we were really beginning to think that we were being pranked, how bad everything just went. I mean, we were just laughing by the end of it and everybody else was having a dandy time. But like we had this one person who everything about it was just hilarious. So it's been a fun journey with that man for sure. He definitely, I ate really, really well. But I do get great thrills, and so do my kids, out of getting him outside of his comfort zone, which he loves to talk about, getting everybody else outside of their comfort zone. But we love getting him out of his.
Yeah, no, it's been, like I said, it's been great to watch it. I'm glad that we can actually like finally talk about it.
More public. We were hiding it, but we weren't making it a big.
We couldn't just mention it in like conversation. You didn't know who knew or not. It's private, right? At the end of the day, people's relationships are private, and you want to respect that. But it's also a lot of fun, and so being able to like reference it, and obviously you guys have an event coming up at Marfa, and
we've had a couple of smaller things that we've done with small groups of friends, but yeah, this is our first, really co public event for sure. Did you just say power couple?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so people say this to us, and we just die laughing. Actually, I referenced this yesterday because yesterday we were at an airport, and between the two of us, he managed to delete his eSIMs off of his phone while we were waiting on the bags because he was trying to switch to a different eSIM. Managed to do that while we're waiting on bags. In the meantime, I'm thinking, oh, well, we should, I'll go ahead and take these. We had a connecting flight. I'll go ahead and switch these bag tags out because we have to go recheck our bags. I threw away the bag. It was everything fell apart. Like he had made a mess of this. I had thrown away our bag tags. We had to go all the way out and come all the way back into the airport. And we're standing there, and then there was something with his travel visa. It was everything was just a mess, and we had to walk all the way around the airport like 6 times. And I looked at him, like somewhere along the line, we do this thing where we try to knock each other over with our rolling suitcases too. And I said it. And at one point I just looked at him and I was like, power couple right here. Just like, this is so ridiculous how ridiculous that we really are. But I think powerful, we hope in the way that we're spreading the right word and we're bringing more people in, and that people can see our joy, but also how, if it wasn't for the space, we would have never met. And even the timing of how we met, like everybody else knew who he was. I had no clue who that person was. And people were like, how do you not know? I'm like, cause I have my, I have no idea, but it's like the timing was perfect. If had we met any sooner, it wouldn't have been a thing. But yeah, it's been a fun journey.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I think you both have the right platform to help this space grow, obviously with his audience on the traditional finance side, plus the one he's built on Web3, and then yours on the art side, obviously being the more fashionable of the two.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I mean, he's got to stop wearing pants that are 2 sizes too small.
I'm not winning that the cuffed pant argument yet. That's definitely his brand. I mean, granted, he would prefer to be in shorts and a t-shirt all the time. I mean, he likes to dress up, but no, so he's cuffing the pants just to feel as much like he's in shorts as possible.
Fair enough.
So it's always Converse or flip flops. I think one day he wore a pair of Vans, and I was like, I don't even recognize you right now. Who are you? But yeah, we're getting there, Sergio. It's okay. We'll get him there in time.
Got him to Olive Garden, I think, and the Whataburger, which Whataburger is such a special place in my heart.
So the great story about the first time he had a Whataburger experience was, oh wow, this is personal. I'm probably one of my best friends in the world, and I have several best friends, but one of the people that I'm in constant communication with is Die With the Most Likes. He and I are really close, and Raul, of course, is very anti-fast food, anti-American establishment, whatever any word he would use to sound fancy, calling our food shit. And what is it he called? Philistines, is that what he calls us, or something?
Philistine.
Yeah, love that. So he had back-to-back interviews one morning, and we were back in Texas, and I text Di, and I was like, I'm so going to order Whataburger, but I'm going to have him deliver it to the side so I can just snarf down this Whataburger, and he'll never be the wiser, because I'm not going to listen to him like complaining. Like, just, it was like literally just a joke about this Whataburger thing. And so Whataburger gets delivered, I eat it, throw it away. We had an event or something. We went out and had some drinks, and he woke up in the night, he had a headache, and he was like wandering around, and he was like, oh, I just wish I had like something to eat. And I was like, how does like a taquito sound? Because like when I order a cheeseburger, I always get like taquito, because you can never know when you might want a snack. And so it was like 3 a.m. I was like, do you want a taquito? And he was like, what's a taquito? And I was like, well, it's like a taquito. I kind of explained it to him. So and I heated up, and he was like, I didn't know what I needed, but this is what I was needed. And I was like, oh, we just had a small victory.
That is a Whataburger experience. That right there. It's, you don't have it as a meal. Like, you go out. For me, it was high school, going out with my friends, and then going to the Whataburger for a late night meal, and it just brings so many memories. So I'm glad that was his first experience too.
Yeah, it was a good one. Between that, and he's had a couple of actually, obviously between us and everybody that watches this, he had a Whataburger taquito this morning actually for breakfast as well. Mostly because that's what was easily available at the time when he was passing through. But in his crazy schedule, I was like, Whataburger taquito. He's like, okay.
Oh, amazing. Well, I'm really happy for you guys, and I'm really excited for all the impact that you two together will have.
We are hoping so, and a lot of that speaks to those that we keep around us and that stay around us in our community. We are as strong as those that encircle, that are around us at all times, our family. So our impact is made bigger because of those that we keep company with, you included. And I could go down the long list, but the list is, as I'm learning from our upcoming event, the list is long of amazing people that are in our lives to help us with that.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure the whole Meebits community will be happy to also support and participate. We're coming here at the top of the hour. I did want to leave some time for White Walls, which I know has been quite the experience for you as an investor, founder, operator, patron, ambassador. Um, what is White Walls? You mentioned it before. It's the software that you use to display your art, your TVs. But could you tell us a little more background, what the app does and what it's meant to do and so on?
Yes, I can. I hope so. Gosh, that would be really bad if I couldn't. So, short version is we all have, and I love to use this story, but we all have these JPEGs that we have purchased that are, on our typically on our phones. When we're talking to other people about it, my parents being a great example. I think the first time I bought, when I was talking to them about my Chromie Squiggle that I bought, and I was so excited about it, and I showed it to my dad, and it was on. I turned my phone, and he's like, "Is that like Candy Crush or something?" Like, I was like, oh my gosh. Like how do you explain that it's not Candy Crush at that point? Like you've already, like clearly I just thought he was going to be so overwhelmed with how cool it was that he wasn't thinking that, but to him it's like literally just a ridiculous whatever moving thing on my phone, no better than Candy Crush. And so I was like, this is ridiculous. So I just kind of ignored him and whatever, moved about my business. But then as White Walls came to be and I started displaying my digital art in my home, my dad came over, same exact Chromie Squiggle one day, and he's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. What is this? And I was like, I showed this to you months ago. He's like, I've never seen this before in my life. I'm like, you absolutely have. And so basically White Walls help solve this problem is we're getting our beautiful, wonderful JPEGs, whether we spend $1 on them or the number goes way up from that. We're getting them off of our phones and off of our computer screens, our personal devices, and we're sharing them on hardware displays that we already own. So if you have a television and you have a smart TV, you can use our app to literally stream the blockchain. So the other thing is our digital art, we're different than just regular digital art because our art is stored and accessed via the blockchain. So my app now, you add your wallet to your account and it literally is accessing the storage of it through the blockchain. So we don't actually have any servers. We're not right-click saving. We're not downloading images. We're literally streaming them for how they are stored online. So it's a very exciting thing. So as the piece changes, as the metadata changes, you're getting that. You're not downloading. I pay a ton of money for Google Photos and for Apple Photos and all the storage because we're so worried about losing everything. But one of the great things is these pictures are out there. We're working on that as well about how other ways of how storing this long term and protecting that. But it's a beautiful thing. And so I'm really proud of the fact that we're doing things in a way that nobody else has done them yet. And it's exciting. So if you have a television, I have bought televisions now specifically just to display my digital art, but they also can use as regular television. So that's kind of the short version of that. We also have channels in White Walls for artist discovery. I think there's a little over 100 channels out there for different curations and artists. And the goal was to, I also talk about this a lot, that Twitter is how we often are discovering, if you don't have a community around you, we're often discovering new artists because of what we see on our timeline feed. And unless you don't know where to go, that's where you're looking. And this was a way that if you had the app, you could see different art, and the build out would show, hey, you like this art? Have you seen this before? That sort of thing. So just artist discovery, bringing more artists that sometimes, you hear all the time on the timeline. How are people going to find me because I don't have enough followers, or I don't have this, or I can't afford this, whatever it may be. This was another way for people to discover new artists.
Love it. Whitewalls.art. Everybody go check it out. And if any questions, you can DM Blondie for customer support.
Yes. Please do that. I will. Yes. Actually better to DM the White Walls DMs. I'm better about checking those because mine are mostly closed at this point for sure.
Yeah.
DMs are crazy, man. I got to tell you, that's one of the things I tell new collectors too. Like once you start publicizing that you're collecting, you're going to have to be really careful with your DMs. Yeah. It's overwhelming for sure.
Yeah. It reminds me of almost when you had white pages, remember? And you could find anybody's phone number and address in a physical book in your house. Imagine we had that today. It'd be wild. But that's like DMs, right? It's like the ability to message somebody directly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. This has been incredible. hearing the Blondie Genesis story and the lore. I think you're one of the most interesting kind of like paths to and through and forward Web3 crypto art, especially like you don't meet a lot of women that are trading and collecting and flipping sneakers. Well, you were not flipping the sneakers, but you were like collecting sneakers. I think
The
that's,
intent was to flip the sneakers.
but you fell in love with them.
Very few of them, yeah. They're art. They are. They are very pretty and nice, pretty acrylic boxes in what I call my trophy room. So
Nice, 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 nice. Well, I'm sure the skulls of Lucy look amazing next to your Air Jordan ones or whatever is in that collection. No,
yeah,
I think it speaks to the nature that humans have of collecting things. That, like you said, you're a collector of beautiful things. That's why you have a Meebit. That is beautiful
it is
as
a
well.
beautiful Meebit.
Yeah. But this has been awesome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for really like letting us into your story, sharing some details about how your kids see this, your new boyfriend with a funky accent sees this.
Yeah, we do spend a lot of time making fun of how we each say something, for sure. It's very, very different, a Texan and a Brit. It's a fun time.
I always tell him he's wrong. Obviously, my if I was American, I'll be Texan. So yeah, I'm always on your side, Blondie. If you need a second,
We have a friend who likes to say that they're a conquered people, and now we get to decide how things are said. I don't know that I agree with that, but I do get a really good giggle out of that. So it's a
well,
good time.
yeah, no, amazing. I can't wait to see you guys again. Thank you so much for stopping by. Love to have you back at some point, and best of luck with everything that you guys are doing. It's I think it's very meaningful, and I'm really glad that you guys are powerhouses, but teaming up to do it as well. I think it's awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been a fun time.